Good evening, folks. It's another host. God, I'm already botching. It's your host, Stafford Parker, here with another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. Welcome back, guys. It's good to see y'all again. I already bossed the show, and it's 12 seconds in. I love that. It's good to see you guys again. We had a fun night of racing last Saturday. For the people who have Flow Racing, got to see the race. If you didn't, well, I'm here to review it for you, for all ARCA Racing fans. As of course, hit the little intro. I'm your host of the ARCA Racing Podcast, Colby Evans at Stafford Parker on Twitter. Follow the people themselves, ARCA Racing on Twitter, at ARCA_Racing. The man himself, Brad Smith, at Driver Brad Smith. And two of my best friends on social media, the last car king himself, Brock Beard, at Last Car on Brock. NASCARMAN. If you want to check out some really cool history videos, go check out NASCARMAN's channel. And, of course, my all-time favorite racing photographer, David Paquin. All right, guys, let's get into the show. So we had the West Series. This was their first, so to say, West Series only event of the year. And I was skeptical coming into it because, I had reviewed the West Series at the end of 2021 when I really started doing this podcast full time. And I really wasn't shy to admit I enjoyed the West Series more than the main series. By the end of last season, from the championship battle to the overall action on track, the West Series was providing way better racing than the main circuit. Mainly because, Ty Gibbs wasn't pulling away every week. And, in the West Circuit, we had all different types of cars. You had Bill McAnally and Sunrise Ford, the beast teams. And then you had the little team, PJ Pedroncelli chasing after the championship, Todd Souza chasing after the championship. Everything you want. I think that's why I love that series a lot more. And I was really excited to see this series coming into 2022. Unfortunately, I was also very excited. The initial entry list kind of shocked me. By the end of 2021, we were averaging probably about 23 cars a race, which for a West Series sanctioned only event, quite shocking, honestly. Really was. Now, the first Irwindale race last season only had 18 cars. So when we had the first of the entry lists come out that had 18 cars on it, I'm like, all right, I understand. It's the first West-only sanctioned event of the season. The car counts might go up in the future. But then, unfortunately, as the days went on, I realized that Bobby Hillis, it didn't look like he was going to enter. We actually have some news on Bobby Hillis I'll get to in a second. The entry list had actually gone down, and this was actually the smallest field of cars we've had for a West race since the pandemic season of 2020, which we saw just really sad races of 11 cars. I mean, I think that's a season we all want to forget. But the initial entry list did have 18 cars on it. We had Kyle Keller. Now, that was originally supposed to be a full-time effort. As you guys saw, we reported it right here on the show. Kyle Keller was planning on doing the entire West Series season. They had full sponsorship in play, too. They ran Phoenix. Some people had actually told me that it was because that they had crashed their car. And, I go back to Phoenix. The car wasn't really all that badly damaged. Yeah, the deck lid was hanging off, but, the deck lid can be fixed. It's not like the thing was totaled at all. Now, they also lost an engine in the race. That is not as easy to repair, obviously. So I'm wondering if maybe that affected something. But either way, one of our full-time championship contenders, Kyle Keller, had withdrawn from this event, and that pretty much takes him out any chance of the championship, unfortunately. Another non-entry that I was surprised didn't show up was the 27 of Bobby Hillis. As I mentioned about a minute ago, he was not on this weekend's entry list, or last weekend's entry list, I meant. And I was kind of shocked by that. Bobby, from the pandemic season of 2020 and last season of 2021, really tried to run all the races. Now, I did have some weighing options of why I might not be there. More teams showing up. He might not get the owner's point bonus payout. But a post to his Twitter, I believe his Twitter account is FCR Team 27, if you want to go follow him on Twitter. And they actually showed that their yellow car with the blue rims was actually on Meckham Auto Auctions, up for auction. And if you looked really closely, you could see that the bid was starting off at $35,000. If that actually was. I'm not sure if that actually was for the car or not, but you guys can go check out the picture for yourself. Kind of sad, I hope this is not the end of Bobby Hillis. I just interviewed him on the podcast last December, and he definitely said that full-time was an option, but that the likelihood is he wouldn't be able to because, the schedule is a lot bigger. We're back up to 12 races this season, if I'm correct. And he might not to get hit all of them, but pretty much now that's not the end of Bobby completely. He does have a second car, the fluorescent orange one, which looks awesome. But it's pretty much sad to see that Bobby is down to one car. I believe he still has the Camry. Obviously, he can't race it anymore, but I'm sure he can use parts from that car if he needed it. It's just kind of sad. I was really looking forward to Bobby running full-time this season, and clearly from what we saw in this first race, maybe the field sizes are not what we expected for this season. Some other notables, we had Tim Spurgeon. He's kind of been part-time the last couple of seasons. It was kind of exciting to see him enter, but when he withdrew, it also was not shocking as well as he doesn't run a lot of short-track races. And then Stafford Smith was in the 08 for the Mike Holleran Kart Idaho team. He was later moved to the 21, which is also part of the Kart Idaho organization. So that took us from 18 cars down to 15 cars, but then we had a late entry. I think it was earlier that day, Saturday, or was it Friday, that the ARCA Menard Series Twitter account tweeted out that the first ever mother-daughter would be competing in the ARCA circuit? Sarah Burgess, Bridget's mom, who drives the 88 car, was going to be driving the number 04 entry. Now, I was skeptical as BMI Racing, the Burgess Motorsports Incorporated team, has gotten a second vehicle. So I'm like, could this be a classic case of, somebody gets the second vehicle, they want to bring it to the track, do a shakedown start and park. We've seen that countless times where teams will get a new car. They just want to make sure everything runs correctly. So they'll bring it to a track, which tests, equipment durability, and run it a couple laps and just see how it does. Some people were quick to correct me that it was actually just a start and park backup car of the Eric Nascimento team with Sebastian Arias's decals on it as Sebastian was running the primary 4 car. So that set us at 16 cars. And, honestly, I was a little disappointed because we got 18 for this race last season, and we only got 16 for this one, with approximately 2 starting parks, which left us down to 14 already. I was also a little skeptical because, remember, Paul Pedroncelli, the main starting park for the team, does usually start and park, but he actually ran the full Irwindale race last year. So coming into this race, I was a little skeptical of whether Paul would actually run the full race. Quickly come to find out he wouldn't. But anyway, we're going to have a pretty small field for this one, and I was still excited because at the end of the day, the West Series, they showed that they didn't need a huge field to put on a good show, and they really didn't disappoint. It was still a good show, but we'll get into that obviously more into the show. The main entry list, we only had the 16 cars. Another interesting entry was the 50, as many of you guys have noted, and I reported as well. Trevor Huddleston was not returning to the Sunrise Ford Bob Roncati team for 2022. And instead, it looks like that they are taking over, the Huddleston family has taken over the High Point Racing team that Dean Thompson ran for back in 2021. If you look at the paint schemes, they're oddly familiar, and the number is literally one number less. It's from this year was 50, last year was 51. Last year's number was green, this year's number is pink. Ironically, the cars and equipment come from Bob Roncati's team. But I don't believe Roncati himself is actually affiliated with this team. I think he just sells them equipment, or it's just maybe they have a working relationship. But I don't think we had. I don't think they actually have a working relationship. I'm not sure about all that, but it's kind of weird to see that even though Huddleston had been released from Roncati's team, he still technically was driving a Bob Roncati car. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. So the one and only practice qualifying session we had, obviously that's how ARCA does it. Tanner Ref showed easy speed, beating the field by over a tenth. Keep in mind, this was the car that Jake Drew was driving last year, as Jake Drew moved over to Huddleston's car, the number 6. It was noted, though, on the ARCA Racing Twitter page that after practice qualifying, that Sarah Burgess' car had been withdrawn from the event. But I believe since they participated in practice, and I've seen this done before, for instance, back at the East race at New Smyrna, we saw the Zero Peterson car. They ran, I think they ran one lap of practice, but then they couldn't make qualifying. But technically, they still got some sort of credit for being on the starting list, but not actually being on the starting list. It's weird how that works. But if you go to the racing reference page, they do have her not on the withdrawn DNQ list, but listed as number 16th with owner points attached to the car. So I'm not sure how all that works, honestly, but it is kind of cool. The 31 of Paul Pedroncelli actually never even took a lap. So that was my first indication right there. Yeah, he's pulling in early. It's kind of cool, that Paul really runs the exact same car every race. You look at pictures of the car that he ran, from the debut of 2021 to now, I think it's literally been the exact same car every race. So I knew, he was going to pull in early. So that left us down to, again, 14. It actually was kind of funny because, I don't know, was it Diego Alvarado who tweeted it out? I don't know. An ARCA Racing West photographer tweeted out a picture of the apparent 04 car. And I swear to God, I retweeted it. It's on my timeline if you guys want to check it out. It is the funniest tape job I've ever seen. They literally put zero effort into this tape job. We've seen some fantastic tape jobs of changing numbers in NASCAR. This was probably one of the funniest and one of the worst ones I've ever seen, but that made it even better. So if you guys saw the picture, it's the normal paint scheme. If you saw Eric Nascimento's car, the car that he owns, with Sebastian Arias driving, you saw the wrap, okay? Now imagine right before the big number 4, just a tiny little 0. It was hilarious. I'm like, oh, if only this car could have ran on track. No wonder they didn't put the car on the track. The spotter wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Oh, that was so funny. It really was funny. I really do hope we can get Sarah versus Bridget, because I tell you want to meet 2 tough women who know how to drive a car, it's Sarah and Bridget Burgess. I would love to see them both in a full race car going at it with each other. That'd be funny. That'd be cool. That would be really cool. I really wish that Bridget got more exposure in the racing circuit, like a Tony Briding or like a Natalie Duck. I really wish Bridget would get more television time, would get more broader spectrum, would get an interview. She deserves it. She's got talent. There's only one problem. She's only got one car that's ready to go right now. That's holding that team back because they got to use that car. It's short tracks and road courses. So, Tanner Ref was on the pole. The 99 of Cole Moore was in second. Joey East was third. Trevor Huddleston was fourth. And Todd Souza was fifth. Fan favorite PJ Pedroncelli was seventh. Sebastian Arias was ninth. Takuma Koga was 10th. Burgess was 11th. Nick Jonades, who had withdrawn from Phoenix, was actually running this event. They qualified 12th. And Loudon 13th and Stafford 14th, as I previously mentioned. So only 14 cars, kind of what do you expect? Luckily, Irwindale is kind of a track that doesn't need 30 cars to put on a good show. At least, I would say at least about what we got, 14 to put on a good show. And it didn't disappoint. It didn't disappoint at all. So the race went green. And surprisingly, right out of the gate, despite hunting him down, the 9 of Ref got out very early. He jumped to a very early lead over the 50 of Huddleston. His teammate Jake Drew was not showing as much pace. Trevor Huddleston was kind of his main competitor the whole race. Huddleston ran second. Drew ran third. Cole Moore would run fourth. Joey East would run fifth. And the one driver I've been kind of concerned about, whether he could kind of keep the legs under him, was Austin Herzog. This is a car, technically, yeah, it's two different numbers, but it was the same team. The 19 team from 2020 changed to the number 16. And I was wondering, could Austin Herzog keep up the momentum that Jesse Love had done with that team? And well, judging by his performance in this race, you don't judge it by one race, but I was not impressed. I was not impressed by this run. Yeah, he was running 7th, but again, this is a field of 14 cars. That's not impressive to me. With all due respect, in a Bill McNally Chevrolet, you should be able to run better than at least in the top 5. It was noted, though, that the cars were quickly losing touch with the field, and a lot of the back markers were going to get lapped quite a bit in this race, despite the lap times quicking up very quickly. So Sarah Burgess, like we said, didn't start the race. Paul Pedroncelli pulled up after 2 laps after that dreaded brake issue. Just after 2 laps, he lost the brakes. Stafford Smith showed he had the slowest car. He got lapped pretty quickly. After that was Loudon. They had the 2 slowest cars. Bridget would get lapped later than after. Same with Joan Diaz. They were the cars that, again, a track like Irwindale where you have to run the top line to be fast, it's really hard for a lap car to stay out of the way because they're trying to keep pace up too. And when you run the bottom at Irwindale, it's like you're just barely moving and you don't want to lose more and more time. Another thing that had happened is that fan favorite PJ Pedroncelli. It never really was shown what happened to him unless I missed it on a replay. But the left door of his car, now keep in mind composite body of cars, literally had peeled away, and it's like, I don't know how to, it's like it went like that, it went like that. It was weird, man. I'd not seen a door peel like that in a long time, and I'm wondering what contact had caused that. I mean, that must have felt okay for Pete. It must have handled like crap, but all that extra air coming in probably felt pretty good. I don't know. But it did affect the 33's performance, and he struggled for speed. It didn't help at all throughout the entire race. He struggled for speed, went a lap down. Race ran pretty clean because, like I said, after Paul had pulled off, we only had 14 cars. And even though Irwindale is still a relatively big track, it's a half mile, 14 cars on a half mile, they will get spread out fairly quickly. So you realize what I'm saying is that, not many cautions are going to happen, especially that early in the race. 30 laps in, why would you wreck someone? There's no need to. Plus, with how tight these cars are in terms of competitiveness, you don't want to wreck someone on lap 30 because on lap 149, they're going to junk you. That's what happens in the West Series, and that's why it's entertaining. So we didn't see our first caution until lap 60. By then, we only had 8 cars on the lead lap. Well, not many cars were going to finish on the lead lap in this race. It definitely looked like the 54 of Joey East. It looked like he actually blew a right front tire or he just got loose. It was hard to tell. They didn't really have the best replay for it, but fortunate damage because remember, this is not a DGR affiliated team. This is not DGR that he drove for last season. This is the Nike Motorsports team. They don't have a lot of funding. They don't have a lot of equipment. And unfortunately, with the unique pit road that they had, and keep in mind, they only had 4 tires in the pits. They only had 4 tires in the pits, and they were allowed to change 2. They were allowed to change the other 2, obviously, in case of an emergency. And if needed, they had their practice set at their pits in case it was absolute emergency. They had to bolt on whatever they had. And obviously, all else they had was the practice set. So they got that car fixed. They got him back out. Unfortunately, he had lost, I think it was about 3 or 4 laps. His race was over. So that took one competitive car out of the race. So by then, they had already lapped up to 8th place. The free pass was PJ Pedroncelli. They were able to come down. And I don't know if they just peeled the fender off or I think they peeled it back and then threw a heck load of duct tape at it. That's what I would have done. And it did help PJ, but at the end of the day, the speed overall was just not there. And even going back to last year, Irwindale was not one of PJ's better tracks. I look forward to him probably being more competitive when we get to a track where the bottom is preferred and maybe one of the road courses, because PJ did excel at the road courses last year. By the way, little side tidbit of information, if you guys are curious, the winning car that Chase Briscoe drove on the road course last year at Sonoma in the West race is now at the Greg Van Alst race shop. Kind of cool little tidbit right there. And I believe that was a former Chad Bryant car. So, yeah, that's kind of a cool little thing if you guys wanted to see. That car, because it still has the body and the wrap on it, is actually at the Greg Van Alst shop now. So Greg Van Alst has definitely got some good equipment for when the ARCA series goes out to the road courses this season. Just a little tidbit I wanted to throw in there that I saw today. So they got back green. It was only going to be a 10-lap run, quick little sprint to the lap 75 break, because, we weren't going to have a 50 and then a 50 and then a 50-lap run. I was kind of happy about that. I don't really like when we have the 50, 50, 50. I like it when it's just 75. You got what you got and go. I like that. Unfortunately, Todd Souza, just a tough break. Only a couple laps before the stage break, Todd lost, I think they said it was a rear tire. I'm not sure if it was a left rear or right rear, but he lost a rear tire. And, pitting, especially with these pit crews, not being lightning fast, these guys aren't really trained to go over the wall at a lightning speed. They're just used to doing it, under controlled conditions. So, they had to limp the 13 to the pit box, and his pit crew, they went as fast as they could, but nonetheless, Todd still lost, I believe, 3-4 laps in the pits. And that was a tough break because, Todd, he's a sentimental favorite in this series because, he does it himself. He's been doing it himself for a long time. I think people forget just how long. If you guys want an instant of just how long Todd Souza has been in the West Series, he's been in the West Series under 3 different sponsorships. Back when it was the Camping World West Division, back in 2007 and 8, and then the K&N West Division, now the ARCA West Division. That's how long he's been in this circuit. So it really sucked to see him suffer some damage. Sorry about that. So by this point, just before the break, we had another retiree, Stafford Smith, who just, I don't know if it really was a legitimate steering issue. We have seen half-race starting parks before. I always classify my starting parks. You got the 2-lap starting park, you got the 30-lap starting park, and then you got the half-race starting park. Now you're like, how the heck does that work? I don't know either. That's just how I've classified them. And it just seemed weird that literally a lap or 2 before the break, the 21 had pulled off. You think he probably just would have waited for the break. I think it was planned. I don't think they had intention to run the whole race. The car itself was slow anyway. He was going to finish 14th either way. It's not like Stafford was going to run any better than where he had actually finished the race. So it's clear that this was not the best car of the CART Idaho team. And even then on the broadcast, the car was way up off the ground. Like that car was just, like I know that CART Idaho team, they try their best. Mike Holloran's team, they try their best. But man, that car, for some reason, it was way up in the air, and it was not even close to seal to the ground, which at a track like Irwindale with the Highline being preferred, you understand now why he was going so slow. So he was our next retiree. That left just 13 cars left on the track. When we went back to green on lap 81, just for mentioning, Takuma Koga was the free pass on the lap 75 break. What's up, Moff? Good to see you in the chat. Which only left us with, again, 7 cars on the lead lap. By this point, Sebastian Arias was 1 lap down. Todd Souza was 4 laps down. Joey East was 3 laps down. Nick Jonades was 3 laps down. And Bridget was already 3 laps down as well. And Chris Loden, I forgot. Chris Loden was 5. So we went back to green. And once again, the 9 just checks out. And the 50 could get to him. But as we know, at Irwindale, it's really hard to pass. You have to pull the slide job to be able to make a pass. And the 50 would get there, man. He'd get side by side. He'd throw it into the corner. But at the end of the day, man, the outside group would just sail on past. And that's why it was so hard for him, man. And I kind of see it coming at your classic case. A lot of young kids do this. The 50 used up his tires in the first 10 laps trying to get the lead. What happens? We all know. He started to fall back. And pretty much when the 50 started to fall back, I knew that was pretty much it. The 9 had it locked up. And he had built himself, despite Irwindale not being a very big track, 3-second lead on a half mile is huge. So the 9 of Riff had this race in the back. Nobody was going to catch him. By this point, the 6 of Jake Drew, his teammate, had caught up to him, not to Riff, but to the 50 of Huddleston, and again had begun their own battle. But the same thing was happening to Jake Drew, where he could get alongside him, but he just couldn't make the pass. And they were kind of just ticking by laps. Not much was happening. They were kind of lapping cars just lap by lap by lap by lap. Going by, the 13 of Souza and the 54 of East managed to get by some of the lapper cars that they were battling. And Souza was able to still snag a top 10 out of it, despite the bad run. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. And laps were just kind of clicking by. I was watching on it looks like we're not going to get a real exciting finish here. And then all of a sudden, I kind of saw it coming right out of the blue. They came off a turn 2. I believe this was just with, 3 laps to go? This couldn't have been with just a couple laps to go. The 11 of Chris Loudon, he's trying his best. He doesn't have a lot of starts. The team doesn't have a lot of good equipment. And he had held his line. It's not like you cannot blame this on the lap car. He held his line. The 50 drove around him very aggressively. And although I am a Jake Drew fan, I am. What he did to that 11 car was uncalled for. He ran right into the back of him and gave that 11 no chance of making that corner going way too fast. To me, that is completely uncalled for. And you could say that was Jake bringing out a caution to help him, but also possibly screw over his teammate. I mean, who knows what happened? And if it was an accident, it sure didn't look like one. And I was not happy. I was not happy. I even put it out there when they showed a replay of it. I'm just saying that's uncalled for, man. I'm tired of seeing these big budget teams wrecking low budget cars just to get a caution. That is uncalled for, man. Completely uncalled for. And while the damage to what we saw to the 11, it's not totaled. The car's not totaled. But, for a team like Loudon's, they don't have a lot of money. Do they have another rear clip? Do they have another entire left side door? The left front suspension's probably screwed up. The splitter is bent. A lot of crap needs to be replaced. And I really hope that they go to Sunrise and being like, hey, you won the race. You going to pay for this? I see in the chat they're saying, the 11 moved to the bottom, but he was just running his line. He'd been running the top the whole race. They just go to the bottom of him. And you could say, well, the 6 just came up on him too fast. But he had been doing that the entire race, catching the 11 and passing him in the corner. So what made this instance different? I don't know. I just thought it was uncalled for. I thought it was intentional. If it wasn't, sure didn't look like it. Sure didn't look unintentional, but to me, it looked like it was intentional. So that set up the dreaded restart. And this was not a green-white at the same time. This was a green-white checkered. Now, again, this is not ARCA, not NASCAR, where you can come in and get the fresh tires. Because if someone got fresh tires, they would have blew away from the pack. Irwindale is a very tire abrasive track. So it was surprisingly, even though the outside line is preferred, the 9 of Riff actually chose the inside line, giving the enemy, I guess you could say, the enemy, the 50 car of Huddleston, the outside groove. And I'm like, man, if the 9 botches this restart, that's it. 50 is going to check out. It didn't work like that. Right as they took the green flag for this last restart, I don't know. I remember who hooked who. I don't believe I don't think it was one of them. I think it was either I think maybe it was the 99. I don't know if it was the 99 or not, but the 50 got corkscrewed into the 6, completely destroyed the 6's right front fender. The 50 managed to keep going. They didn't wreck, but it caused pure calamity and more than enough space for the number 9, of Tanner to take the white flag and cruise to victory, giving Sunrise Ford, Bob Roncati, a win, which I don't even remember Bob Roncati's last win. If anyone in the chat could look that up real quick, I don't even remember. Bob's last win, so it's good to see them get a win. Cole Moore hung on, got for second. Austin Herzog, like I mentioned earlier, I was not really impressed with how he ran tonight, but he still snuck up there for third. Jake Drew, despite the damage, limped it home to fourth. And also, despite the damage, was happy to see PJ Pedroncelli get a top 5. And with Huddleston, I believe he actually had a tire down. His left front tire went down because of that. He ended up 6th. Takuma Koga was 7th. Sebastian Arias was 8th. Excuse me again. Todd Souza was 9th. Joey East was 10th. Nick Jonades was 11th. Bridget Burgess was 12th. Chris Loudon was 13th, and Stafford Smith was 14th. And, of course, with our final placer, Paul Pedroncelli, 15th. Overall, I enjoyed the race. Like I said, the West Series, I just think with how close the big teams are together, like there's really no team in the West Series that pulls away every week. I enjoy that, man. I really do. While I was not impressed by the car counts, we do have some extra entries. I do know that the 17 of Amber Slagle is going to run Kern County, so right there, that's an extra car. Might see Bobby Hillis at Kern County. He ran there last year as well. I would at least expect 20 cars for Kern County. I think this is just, one of those West races where we're not going to see a big entry list. But we still got a good show. Out of a 10, I don't know what you guys would give it out of 10. I give it a 7.8 out of 10. And the only reason why I don't give it a higher grade is just because of car counts. And it's just, I like a flag-to-flag victory, but they're also very boring. I like having leaders. I like having comers and goers. But, hey, when nobody's good enough to catch the 9 car, that just shows, man, they were on point that night. They were on point. They had the best setup that night. So that's kind of the end of the race. Our point standings in terms of driver point standings after the race. Jake Drew leads. Obviously, with the race after Phoenix, that included a lot of West regulars. That included a lot of ARCA main regulars. So I couldn't really decipher a perfect point standing, so I wanted to wait till race 2. Jake Drew leads by 3 points over his teammate Tanner Reff. Colbor is 3rd. Austin Herzog is 4th. Todd Souza is 5th. PJ Pedroncelli is 6th. Joey East is 7th. Takuma Koga is 8th. Sebastian Arias is 9th. And Bridget Burgess is 10th. In terms of our other full-time competitors, although he's in 13th in points, he's really 11th. Chris Loudon. And our bottom full-timer in the West Circuit, Paul Pedroncelli, is currently listed as 21st in the points. Technically, he's only about 13th. As for owner points, it's kind of the same situation. Right now, Bob Roncati leads the top 2 in the Owners' Championship, which is very precise, as we know, because that's where ARCA teams get their payouts. They don't get paid for the Drivers' Championship. They get paid for the Owners' Championship. That's why it's really big to finish as high as you can in the Owners' Championship, which is also why I was kind of shocked that the 50 team, maybe they just didn't have everything together in time. The 50 team really put themselves at a big disadvantage by not running Phoenix. Being that far behind, it's going to be tough for them to close back up in the Owners' Championship. They might still be able to get a top 5, top 10 finish in the points, but they're not going to probably get as big of a payout as they would had they went to Phoenix. Some other ARCA stories. I keep seeing people talk about Talladega. Don't expect a Talladega entry list for at least 2 to 3 weeks. It's going to be a while. We don't have any ARCA action for a couple weeks. In fact, our next ARCA race, we have the ARCA main series at Talladega, and I believe the East series is running. No, it might be the West series at Kern County. It might be the same day. And that is true. Actually, Sir Relkstein points out something in the chat. Apparently, Richard Garvey, who used to drive for Andy Hillenberg, is working with a new team called Ruget Racing. So that's kind of cool to see. Richard does follow me on Twitter, and we do interact a little bit. So I hope everything works out for him, obviously. Also, speaking of Andy Hillenberg, an update. As many of you guys saw, the really bad crash that Benny Chastain had at Pensacola. Just to give you guys an insight of just how bad that crash was, that car is done. From when I was told, that car will not be repaired. That 10 car that Benny Chastain wrecked at Pensacola will not be repaired. So that's kind of sad. You always hate to see a team like Andy Hillenberg lose a car. Obviously, they're probably going to take as much parts off that car as possible, but whatever chassis that was, it's done now. So that's a shame. In case you guys are talking about Talladega, I probably would expect 25 to 35 cars. We got 3 people watching with us. We've had a maximum of 6, only 1 like, so we could get those likes up. That'd be appreciated. Of course, turn on that damn bell for all notifications. And of course, guys, remember, we are having a 250 subscriber giveaway. We're at 182 right now. Again, appreciate all the support. Love you guys. I'm not having the best time at home right now, and you guys make me happier. I love being on here with you guys. And again, 250 subscriber giveaway. We will be giving away 2 of my 164 scale die casts, mint on card. I collect the NASCAR Authentics. I don't take them out of the packaging. I like to display them on my wall, so they are mint on card. They have not been played with. You guys can do what you want. When we get to 250 subs, I will do a giveaway. So again, please do that. And of course, follow all of our friends on Twitter. And in terms of championship picks, we'll end this podcast with championship picks. Honestly, like I said, I don't know. I think we're in the same predicament as we were last year, where we had 6 guys with a championship mathematical shot at the title. And right now, I mean, the way it looks, 8th place Takuma Koga is 16 points back, but I would say the top 7, Joey East, who's only 14 points back, I would say those guys do have a chance. Once we get into these smaller field races where the points kind of close back up a little bit, I would not put out the realm of possibility that we have at least 4 to 5 guys with a mathematical chance of winning this championship when we get to Phoenix in November. And that race is expected to also have 40 cars. Gianni Carlino. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. New viewer here. Good to see you on the show. Happy you're here. I thank you for enjoying my work. Again, we all love the backmarkers here. This is a backmarker-friendly podcast. We'll still call them out. If they do something really stupid, we're still going to call them out, but we love the backmarkers here. And speaking of the backmarkers, Backmarker Battles returns tomorrow. We will be going hopefully live. Depends on if I can get everything worked out. We'll be going live. We have a lot of storylines to talk about for the Xfinity series. They have a lot of different cars showing up. We have some surprising DNQs. We have an owner point change. We'll go over that tomorrow. As for I see people talking about Talladega in the chat, we're not going to talk about Talladega for a while because it's a couple weeks away. It's not the next race. But again, guys, it's almost been 40 minutes. Not the longest podcast, unfortunately. I like to hit close to an hour, but we've kind of went through everything. We kind of went through all the storylines. The race itself, didn't take long. Didn't take long in general. It was barely over an hour, and it didn't take long to review. Still enjoy the West Series. I still predict that the West Series is going to show us the best action this year, even though the ARCA Series has shown at Phoenix and at Daytona that they also have provided great action as well. Don't sleep on the ARCA Series, man. I enjoy this series. I want to bring back this series, give them some better eyes. The series is not a joke. People who say the series is a joke, give me a good reason why. They can't, But again, guys, thank you all for your support. Again, I wish we could have been here a little longer tonight, but the circumstances already explained it to you. And we'll catch you all for the Talladega preview show in a couple of weeks. In terms of next week's show, we might have a driver interview. I don't know what we're going to do yet. I've been making some text messages, some emails, and I can't let you know anything right now because I don't have anything confirmed. But anyway, guys, again, I thank you for joining the ARCA Racing Podcast this Wednesday. You guys have a good rest of your night. Don't do anything stupid like you wouldn't do normally. And we'll catch you all real soon, guys. I love you all. Remember to subscribe, the giveaway, and follow all of us friends on Twitter. We're all here for ARCA Racing fun. So long, guys. Love you.